And good morning for the room assistant, yeah, and then the presenter in this session in room B. Okay, before we continue to listen and get attention for the presentation, I would like to inform you about the ground rules for IRSA International Conference participants. For all international conference participant, please choose a quiet location and mute yourself. Rewrite your screen name using the following formats: institution, that's your name. One person speaks at a time as recognized by the moderator. Be concise and respectful of others wishing to comment. Attack the problem, not the persons. There will be differences of opinion. You will not agree with everything that is discussed, but please be open to hearing other people's perspectives. Do not multitask. Stay mentally present. You were invited to this conference because we believe you had something unique to contribute. If you feel your time can be better spent elsewhere, please let moderator know as soon as possible. Stick to the agenda. Please try to stay focused. This conference has a specific purpose. Let's stick to it. Okay. Let me introduce myself as moderator for this session in room B. My name is Agung from Universitas Airlangga, Surabaya, Indonesia. In this session, we have three presenters. Yeah, we have three presenters. And I would like to inform you that the presentation allocation time is 20 minutes. 20 minutes for presentation and 10 minutes for Q&A sessions. Yeah. Okay. We have three presenters. Yeah. For the first time, with Ibu Isnawati Hidayah from ROTASI Institute with entitled paper, Do Gender Determinant Contributes to Deprivation Index, Evidence from Indonesia. Following with second presenter, Bapak Thomas Soseco from UNM, with paper title Estimating Spatial Panel Data Model for Households Net Wealth Determinants in Indonesia. And the last presentation by Peter Abdullah from CORE with title Effort to Shift the Economy from the Extractive Sectors to the More Sustainable Non-Extractive Sectors, a case study in 12 cities and regencies in Riau province. Okay. And the room assistant will show the time limit. Yeah. So you can attention the time. And let's go to the first presenters, Ibu Isnawati Hidayah. Time is yours.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for the opportunity and the time. Thank you, Mr. Anna, and for the committee and everyone who joined this conference. First, I would like to ask the permission to share my screen. I think I was disabled to share my screen. Maybe the student assistant can help me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Try again.
Okay, so I think everyone already can see my screen now. First, let me introduce myself. My name is Isnawati Hidayah. Today, I would like to share with all the participants here and the speakers about do gender determinant contributes to deprivation index, evidence from Indonesia. And here it's also written by Mr. Thomas Soseco from Universitas Negeri Malang. And after that, what's the background, why we write about this paper? The first one is that we know that the poverty in Indonesia is really fluctuative, and it's tend to be declining in the few last years. And for instance, we can see that in 2000, the poverty rate is 39.30%, and in 2017, it's 5.70%, based on the Statistic Indonesia 2020. However, since most estimation are based on the income, somehow and sometimes it makes some biases. So we need to kind of measure the poverty in Indonesia through a more complex way. So we call it as the multidimensional index poverty. And we have to also see the access of education, nutrition, health facility, proper dwelling, and etc. So it's not only based on their income or expenditure. And then what's the methodology that we use? For this paper we use from Susenas, it's covered like almost 155 households in Indonesia, and our dependent variable is multidimensional poverty index. And then for our independent variables, we focus on demographic aspect, for instance, the household size, dependency ratio, and also household head age. In here, we use the logic models, and this is the equation that present in our paper. We use three-dimension on poverty sourced by Alker and Santos, and we have 10 indicators from health, education, and living standard. So we pick the relevant variables from Susenas based on this paper, and then we want to investigate what is how the gender difference can affect on the poverty in Indonesia. I mean, like the probability of being poor in Indonesia based on the gender differences. It can be really interesting to see, and it can be the good information for the government for the recommendation to make like the future policy and so on and so on. And this is the variables that we use. We use the education, health, and standard living. We use the years of schooling, and then school attendance, food security, health insurance, electricity, and until the assets, what the asset that they have. For the methodology, we use for the robustness check, we use the blended Oaxaca types, and then we also make the compare with alternative models to see how's our calculation going. So we use also the likelihood criteria, and then IEC and BIC. We will explain it later in our result. Based on the descriptive statistic, we can see that this is really interesting result because female-led household have smaller household size rather than the male-headed household. So when a mother becomes the head of household, the household size is smaller. Maybe it's only with the children, or only like only some of the family members. So it's not like bigger than the male-headed household. And the second one, the female-headed have a higher dependency ratio compared to the male-headed household. And in here, we also divided the category becomes two. So the first one is vulnerable poor. If the criteria meet, like at least we have 3 indicators of the family facing like a poverty in those indicators, and the other one is the cutoff is 0.33, and the other one is considered to be severely poor if deprived in at least 6 indicators, and bring the cutoff is 0.66. The result and the discussion. So this is our result of the calculation. We're using the Stata to calculate this result. Most individuals are deprived based on the indicator of the years of schooling, health insurance, and assets. And more than 10% of Indonesian population are considered as vulnerable poor, and more than 3% are considered as severely poor. And based on the index by the group, we can see that the difference is not that high. And based on the analysis, it might it caused by the strong financial buffer. What does that mean? It means that they have a good capability to cope with the financial shocks. It is also possible to make the difference between the group of household health, where the female become the household head and the male become the household health. And in here, the observation on the indicator of multidimensional poverty index shows that the years of schooling, health insurance, and food security are largest contributor of multidimensional poverty in Indonesia. So this is the result. There are three variables that contribute most on the multidimensional poverty in Indonesia. And this is the mapping. Based on the analysis, we see that we can see it's clearly like there is really unequal distribution economic development in Indonesia. We can see the vulnerable poverty in Indonesia and also the severe poverty in Indonesia. And East Indonesia, mostly like they have poverty level, high poverty level than in Java Island, for example. And this paper also compares several models. So we have several models. For instance, for the first model, we compare the poverty status and also the household size. For the second model, we compare the poverty status with the household size and also the dependency ratio. And for the third model, this is like the link between the poverty status, household size, and then the dependency ratio and household head age. So the best result that we can see is from the model 3. This is the result. And after that, we also can see the poverty determinant robust with the robust standard error. For instance, like the female-led household have a higher tendency of being vulnerable poorer than the male-led household. So based on this result, we can see that they are kind of highly vulnerably poorer than the male itself. And then the next one is that the household who the head is a male, more than 90% of the gender difference is probability of being vulnerable poor is because of the observable characteristic, and 9% is because of the incoefficient. And for the last one, this one is that we can see from the spatial interaction within the subgroup able to lead the difference influence than estimation without considering the interaction in table beside. This is, we try to measure about the woman age 20 until 24, whether they are married or living together before the age 18. And we see a quite interesting result that the height inequality in Java Island can also be linked with the high percentage of population 10 years old that they not attend to the school, and the high rate is also correlated with the probability of having child marriage. So people tend to have a married in early age, and it shows that the poverty related with those issues in Indonesia. The policy implication, it's quite nice because we see that the data shows that the level of early marriage in Indonesia is still high, especially for a woman, and the poverty is still high. And in the last few decades, the government already make a lot of things, a lot of regulation. Even they changed the undang-undang itself regarding the early marriage, but the problem is still there. So it's also possible that might be in different area, they have different kind of culture and different of mindset. For instance, when I visit some kind of the rural area in East Java, they have a mindset that it's better to be a young widow rather than become a people that late married. So this kind of mindset probably contribute to the highly early marriage rate in several areas. That's why the policy implication is that the government need to make more efficient education, especially for women, to give them skills so they can empower themselves and they can have a good work, so they will delay their marriage. And it's really important that the policy and regulation need to be made by tailor-made. Yeah, I mean, like different area have different kind of policy and program, because every area have different phenomenon and culture related to this issue. And not only that, the government also need to focus more on the development, especially in infrastructure in outside the Java Island. So they will have more potential market, and then they have more opportunity to education, and then they can involve more in economic activities because they have proper infrastructure and etc. So that's the policy implication. And the conclusion is that, based on my explanation before, it's approximately like 10% of population in Indonesia is considered as vulnerably poor, and then 3% is severely poor. And most of them is because of the factor of education, healthcare access, and also the asset ownership. And the household who has female is tend to be more vulnerably poor. And then the government need to make like tailor-made policy to prevent the probability of child marriage, and has to support all the facility and access so the woman can empower themselves at best. I think that's all from from my explanation. And we also have the future research recommendation. It will be good in the future. We also analyze about we simulate like the best policy in every region, so preventing of women for being poor and also getting trapped on early marriage, because it's already be our problem since like not only 1 decade, but maybe like since our country is just built in 1945. So hopefully this presentation will give some new perspective and will be a nice topic to be discussed more. So if you have any question, please, we are welcome. Maybe me and also Mr. Thomas Soseco will have answer, and we can discuss something good about this research. Thank you very much for the time, and thank you for the moderator and also the student assistant. That's all from me. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Ibu Isnawati. Please, for the questions, you can raise your hand or you can type in the chat box. Any question? So waiting for the question. What is your limitation, Ibu Isnawati, for your research? Your limitation study?
Okay,
I think it's very interesting that you mentioned the poverty declining. Yeah, the trend of poverty in Indonesia is declining, but your result is show that the still higher. Yeah, okay. What is your limitation study, and what your comment for the trend of the poverty show decline, but and what the next for the further research for the other researcher to looking at again that the poverty in for example in during the pandemic. What do you think? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for Mr. Agung. So the limitation of this study is just we focus only on our independent variable is focused on the demographic variables. So we see the age of the household and then the size of the household, and also we also see the dependency ratio. So that's the limitation on our study. It's really interesting because even though the trend of our poverty rate is declining, but the proportion of the who the one who poor is just, we see that the woman is more vulnerable poor than the man. It's really important and it's really nice to see in this pandemic era. But if we want to do an analysis using the SUSENAS or using the national survey data, we still have kind of need to do more research about it. For instance, we use the recent data, for example, SUSENAS in 2020 or 2019 at least. That's on my opinion. And what can be the future recommendation for this research? It's really nice when we see, when we simulate like how the current policy that government already made is work in our society, and what is the best policy result. And then we also can see like the more specific region. So it's not in the national program, but we can see also to the regional policy, how it works. Are they solve the problem or not? That's on my opinion. Maybe Mr. Thomas Soseco have any additional information regarding to this? Yes, I please Mr. Thomas to give more explanation maybe. That's all, Mr. Moderator, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Pak Thomas, you can add information.
Yeah. In my opinion, one of the limitation of our research is we just choose for the cross-section data. Well, it is almost impossible for every researchers to just isolate the time influence in the analysis of the poverty, because we usually know that the past poverty or the past condition of the households will influence the future condition of the households. Therefore, yeah, it is better for us, for everyone, to expand the analysis not only just from the cross-section data but also panel data. That's all. Thank you.
Okay. We have a question in the chat box from Ibu Susan. Is there any particular reason why you choose to use SUSENAS instead of Indonesian Family Life Survey?
Okay, so I will try to answer this question. Why we don't use like IVLS? It's because like their data, I mean like SUSENAS is more updated. It's like every year updated by the Statistic Indonesia. That's why we use this data. And then the next question, may I answer it, Mr. Agung, from Ibu Rita?
Yes, please.
Okay, so for this research, we are focused on the independent variable is for the demographic variables. So we didn't use the matriarchy and patriarchy culture in that. Maybe it will be good to be used in the future research. That's all from me. Thank you, Mr. Agung.
Okay, thank you. I think it's very interesting, yeah, about the data from the SUSENAS and Indonesian family. What you mentioned before, that SUSENAS is very updated, yeah, very updated, rather than Indonesian Family Life Surveys. But mostly our researchers still looking or still interested in Indonesian Family Life Survey, yeah. And then the research from the data from the SUSENAS, I think still still little good information, yeah, for our researcher in Indonesia. I think it's a very good information, yeah, in your paper to stated that the data in the Indonesian Family Life Survey must be updated, yeah, must be updated or upgrading data. Yeah. Okay. Okay, we have another question from Azhar. You said that woman is more vulnerable when she's being household head, But do you have the trend? Yeah, is today better condition for women?
Okay, so before answering that question, I say thanks to Mr. Agung because you really have a good point. We agree that Susenas give us limited information regarding to this, but so that's why, because we see several research already use IVLS, that's why we want to try how if we try to dig more to the Susenas data. So that's the case, but that's a really good point, Mr. Agung. And then the next question from Mr. Azhar Syahida, it's about, is there any trend? We say that there is no trend because we use cross-sectional data. So it means it's only 2018, but it can be the future recommendation research. It will be good if we use panel data so we can see the trend. How can the female household head can be vulnerably poor, or maybe they becoming more wealth than the male-headed household itself. So the answer is no. Thank you very much.
It's clear, Pak Azhar. You need more comment?
That's it. Clear, Pak.
Okay, thank you very much. Any more question? Yeah, you can see on the chat box, yeah, from Ibu Susan. It's an interesting presentation, and in case you haven't seen this, you might want to check out a recent paper by Lisa Cameron, University of Melbourne. Okay, Ibu Susan put the link about the paper. Yeah.
Thank you, Bu Susan. I will take a look later. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Any question? I think we still have around 4 and 5 minutes. No? Okay, I think it's enough for your presentation, Ibu Isnawati. Give applause to Ibu Isnawati, the virtual applause to Ibu Isnawati. Good luck for your research, for your study, Ibu Isnawati, Pak Thomas. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Okay, we move to the next, our presenter, Bapak Thomas Soseco from UNM, Universitas Negeri Malang. Time is yours, Pak. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Agung, for the opportunity for me. Okay. So this is it available?
Yes.
The share screen. Okay.
Yes. Can you slide show or make it a full screen?
Oh.
Great.
I would like to say good morning to Pak Agung and then Mbak Fitria in UGM, in UNER, and also I would like to say good afternoon to Bu Susan in New Zealand. This is our research actually, and I work on the PhD in economics and then under supervision of Professor Lex Oxley, John Gibson, and then Ibu Susan Olivia at the University of Waikato. In my paper, I will present the estimation of spatial panel data model for household net worth determinants in Indonesia. The basic background for my research is the unequal development strategy in Indonesia in the last decades, bring unequal household well-being in Indonesia. This can be seen from the development of the certain regions that leaving other regions behind. For example, Java Island is more wealthier than Java Island is wealthier than other provinces in Indonesia. Therefore, the condition will bring differences in household well-being. We can see that households in certain area will be richer than other provinces. In this paper, household well-being is measured from net wealth aspect. The reason is it contains debts that is show the financial security. Therefore, debts can therefore net wealth can include negative values where debts higher than total wealth. Therefore, estimation to find the determinants of household net wealth is with its relationship with the spatial aspect is important in Indonesia. There are two questions in this research. The first question is household well-being measured from net wealth aspect above is spatially concentrated in Indonesia? And the second question, what are the determinants of the household net wealth with the influence of a spatial aspect? I will largely use the data from the IFLS, yeah, the Indonesian Family Life Survey. I use 5 wealths of IFLS from the 1993 to 2014 with more than 5,000 households, especially those who consistently participate in all waves and live in 312 enumeration areas in Indonesia. But because of the IFLS covering the long period that consists of the decentralization process, therefore, I relocate the new regions to the old regions. For example, some provinces, some kabupaten kota or some enumeration areas in Banten provinces, in Banten, move back to the old province, that is Jawa Barat. The IFLS covers all of the provinces in Java Island, and then some provinces in Sumatra and Kalimantan Selatan and Sulawesi Selatan, and the last one is Bali and Nusa Tenggara. The dependent variables in this research is the household net wealth is obtained from total wealth deducted by debts, all with 2010 constant price. And then the total wealth consists of 3 groups of wealth: from business assets, and then non-farm business assets, and then personal or household assets. While the independent variables consist of household and community characteristic that focusing on the characteristic that support higher household net wealth. For example, the household characteristic includes demography, education, employment, migration, and intergenerational transfers. Intergenerational transfers means money given by parents to the children, or days dedicated by parents to look after the children. While the community characteristic consists of accessibility and infrastructure. And then the method used to answer the first question is, because of the first question is it true that net wealth in Indonesia is concentrated? Therefore, I use Morans I, Morans I. With the null hypothesis is the data is randomly dispersed, or there is no spatial autocorrelation. And then for the next research method is using spatial model, because of ordinary least square is not suitable anymore to explain spatial autocorrelation. And then the spatial models used are selected from the 3 proposed models that are spatial autoregressive model that contains spatial lag independent variable, and then spatial Durbin model that contains spatial lag independent variable and independent variable, and the general nesting spatial model that contains spatial like independent variable, and error term. This is finding for the first research question. Is there any spatial autocorrelation in Indonesia in terms of hardware? The answer is yes. We can see from the p-value, the significant value is lower than 0.05. So we can reject H0 hypothesis, and then data are spatially correlated. From the Moran's eye, there is a declining Moran's eye during the period, indicated lower spatial autocorrelation occurred. Then from the Z-score, it has positive values, reflects the positive spatial autocorrelations. That means same direction of household net wealth. If one household has high net wealth, it means that it is surrounded by other household with high net wealth as well. Then we can see from the graph the cloud position in the first 2 years of analysis, 1993 and 1997, is mostly located in the lower left quadrants that reflect low spatial autocorrelations. And then in the 2000 and 2007 and 2014, the cloud is more distributed to other quadrants. It means that the more households are able to increase their net wealth, and then they can increase and leaving other households behind. The conclusion for the first research question is household net wealth in Indonesia is partially concentrated during 1993-2014 with a declining trend. Therefore, economic activities are more distributed throughout the nation, allowing more households to increase their well-being. Next, we are looking for the most suitable spatial model to represent the data. In our analysis, spatial Durbin model is more suitable to represent the data comparing to general nesting model and spatial autocorrelation model. This is the results of estimation. We also present the results from the standard model as well. However, the interpretation from the spatial model cannot rely on the main estimation, but should rely on the marginal effect, or we have to see the direct, indirect, and the total effects. Some interesting findings. We can see that the coefficients in the indirect effect are higher than the direct effect. The change of household net wealth in one region is largely influenced by the change of independent variable due to the change of variables in the neighboring regions. This table talks about the demographic or household characteristic, while this table talk about results of the community characteristic. Then we talk about the spillover effect. In the spatial Durbin model, the spillover effect have higher influence than the direct effect, indicated when considering spatial lag in the covariance and outcome. The change of household net wealth in one region is largely influenced by the change of variables in the neighboring regions, averaging from all neighboring values. And then the total effect, which combines direct and indirect effect, gives higher results than the standard panel model, which ignores spillover, indicates the contributors of household net wealth gives a stronger effect if the spatial aspect is put into consideration. This is the The next interesting finding is the occurrence of heterogeneity in the science of coefficients. For example, in the household size that show positive direct effect but negative indirect effect. The other finding is in the number of community health center or puskesmas that show positive direct effect but negative indirect effect. What are the causes of heterogeneity? We find that the possible causes of heterogeneity are the Java-centric development, and that leads to the infrastructure gap between regions. And then the second cause of heterogeneity is the demographic issue. For example, unequal population distribution, ethnic diversity, and more productive age population, and the expanding middle class. We can see Java Island is home for more than 500,000 of population. More than 100 million people live in Java Island. In this table, in this graph, we can see the purple ones means countries that has population lower than Java Island. It means that a lot of challenges must be faced by Indonesian government for development, especially due to unequal population distribution. The third cause of heterogeneity is the economic change and political structure, especially in Java. The declining role of the industry is occurred, and in the political structure, there is increasing role of local government, especially due to decentralization process. However, these changes are often not accompanied by the increase of the capacity of local government, which bring gap in household well-being. This is the conclusion for the second research questions. Household net worth in Indonesia is largely influenced by spillover effect, that is the change of variables in the neighboring regions, averaging from all neighboring regions. And then when estimated by using spatial panel model, spatial aspect should put into consideration for the analysis of to increase household well-being. To sum up, there are conclusions for this paper. First, household net worth in Indonesia is spatially concentrated with a declining trend during 1993-2014, and then the change of household net worth is largely caused by the distributional effect of the change variable in the neighboring regions. And then the third one, the heterogeneity in endowments of regions create the heterogeneity in the effect and magnitude of the drivers of household net wealth. Therefore, this heterogeneity raises the importance of strengthening local government's capability to support national level targets. I think that's all my presentation. Thank you, Pak Agung.
Okay, thank you, Pak Thomas. Okay, I think it's interesting and very complex about the model, yeah. Okay, any question? You can directly to ask Pak Thomas, or you can type in the chat box. Any question? Okay, waiting for the question. Pak Thomas, can you inform to us about your contribution, your research? Yeah, I think you promote the estimate, the spatial panel data model, right? For the household network determinant in Indonesia. So what is your research contribution? Yes, that the main significant result to our government, looking the household network
Thank you, Pak Agung. Our most significant contribution is related to the estimation of household net wealth. It is rarely discussed in Indonesia. We almost everybody talks about economic growth, talk about income per capita, but the household net wealth is largely ignored. Everybody can earn money, but not everybody can earn high level of wealth, especially high level of net wealth. Because of that, we should also consider the aspect of net wealth. One of the important component is the debt or liabilities. We can have a lot of total value of assets, etc. But if we have debts, it brings us a financial insecurity. Therefore, my project, our paper, talks about net wealth, especially how government make supporting characteristic for households, for community to support the increase of household net wealth in Indonesia. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Pak Thomas. Okay, we still have around 10 or 15 minutes. Any question? Maybe you can tell your story about your challenging doing this research, Pak Thomas.
Yeah, thank you, Pak Agung. Because of my data is mostly from the IFLS, I need to IFLS, and then I collected the data from all waves of IFLS. Wave 1 in 1993, wave 2 in 1997, wave 3 in 2000, wave 4 in 2007, and wave 5 in 2000. Sorry, wave 4 is in 2007, wave 5 in 2014. Because of the variety of years, I need to make sure that the data are consistent in terms of wealth components, number 1, in terms of households, number 2. Yeah, that's takes time a lot. Yeah,
very takes time. Yeah, takes time a lot. Yeah, but looking your data and your graph, your calculation model. Yeah, with the estimation. Is any model that can be applied with in other researcher, Pak Thomas?
Sorry,
is any model,
can you clarify?
Is any model for next research? Yeah, next research is not just depend on the panel data and the spatial. Is any model to look at the household net wealth in Indonesia? You can propose for the next researcher.
Yeah. Actually, we can ignore the occurrence of spatial aspect, but based on our analysis, the spatial aspect gives more interesting story than the non-spatial aspect, because of each of the variable can give you higher influence, whether it is positive or negative. Therefore, future researchers should consider spatial aspect besides the non-spatial aspect in the analysis of well-being. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Pak Thomas. Any question or any comment for research paper by Pak Thomas? I think it's no question, Thomas. Okay, thank you very much for your presentation, Pak Thomas. Good luck for your project. Give applause to Pak Thomas. Okay. We move to our last presenter, last presenter by Bapak Azhar Syahida, Bapak Azhar Syahida from Core. Please, time is yours, Pak. 20 minutes.
Thank you very much, Pak Agung. May I share my presentation? Okay. Okay. To all participants here, I would like to say thank you very much for this great opportunity, and it is a big honor for us to present our result of the research. Our research actually written by four authors. The first one, Dr. Peter Abdullah, Bapak Mohammad Faisal, Bapak Kamal Yusuf, and me, Azhar Syahida. And the title of our research is Efforts to Shift the Economy from the Extractive Sectors to the More Sustainable Non-Extractive Sectors, a case study in 8 cities and regencies in Riau province. Let's start from the macro perspective. We see that Indonesia as a rich country, we still have a huge dependence on natural resource commodity. About 55% of Indonesian export are raw material like gas, and then several essential commodities such as coal, palm oil, copper, nickel, and aluminum. So that's why in some period we see that our growth is very fluctuations, and we also see that in some regions, in some province in Indonesia, that there are some region that depend on extractive commodities, so that their economic growth is very vulnerable. Then there are several aspects that we see as a problem also. It is about governance. We see a lot of uncontrolled issuance of business license encourage excessive exploitation of natural resource. I think this is all besides the economic aspect. It is maybe some political aspect in these conditions. As Thikian, we ever say that there are political burden if we really rely significant on natural resources. Then when a country very depend on natural resources, there are in some conditions very much environmental problems, because many small mines open in the regions causing environmental problems such as pollution and flooding. And so that's why to catch up a more sustainable economic growth, we have to create diversifications, and this is very important to make economic diversification to boost the economy to be more sustainable. And we look at one of the most dependent province to the natural resource in Indonesia is Riau province. We can see from the structure of the economy of Riau. Basically, the regions or a country who depends on a natural resource or a primary sector, in some literature, is it called by a traditional economy. So we can call Riau as a traditional economy, because more than a half of the structure of Riau economy is depends on natural resource or primary sector, which is, if we want to say what is specific sector on primary sector in Riau province, we can say crude oil, then a palm oil. And how do we say that a primary sector of Riau province is crude palm oil and crude oil? We can see from this two line chart. For the first one, we try to put together the economic growth of Riau and the price of crude oil, and we see that when the average price of crude oil fell down, then the growth of Riau's economy also fell down and drastically declined even in 2015, when the price of crude oil is significantly declined, then the growth of economic Riau also declined only to 0.2%. And if we look at the line chart, also we're trying to put together the Riau's economic growth with the crude palm oil price, and we see that the line chart is very similar. So the flowing of the chart is very similar. So this is we call as a fluctuation of economic growth, and sorry, yeah, and we see and when we look at to the specific regencies or cities in Riau province, we see that almost of the regencies and cities in Riau province is really significantly rely on a natural resource. Bengkalis more than 70%, then Rokan Hili, Rokan Hulu, Kepulauan Meranti, and so on. So this is the problem that we see in a field, and we need something more sustainable. So we need to identify what is an alternative sector that we need to create, we need to develop, and we need to suggest we need to suggest for the local government officer over there. And so actually this research is focused on 12 regency and cities in Riau province, but for the 4 regencies and cities left, we're still conducting the research, and we're going to identify, so our objective is we are going to identify the leading non-extractive sector as a source of regional sustainable economic growth. And the question is how we develop that sectors, that non-extractive leading sector. So we also identify the supporting policies that is needed to develop leading and a non-extractive sector. So let's start with the conceptual framework. In our research, we're trying to define what is leading sectors. In this research, leading sector is that one has the potential to become the economy's major engine, increasing income, creating employment, and decreasing poverty rates, resulting in long-term improvement in people's well-being. So this is the definition of leading sector that we created. And the determination of leading sector is determined by two important things. The first is criteria. Criteria is basically the variable that decide whether a sector is considered a leading industry or not. Then when we develop a leading sector, we actually need also about the circumstance. So we call it as enablers. Enablers is circumstances that are required for the growth of leading industrial sector. And like I said before, that how to develop the leading sector, we definitely need a policy, supporting policy. So we also trying to list and create the group of the policies that needed to develop and support leading non-extractive sector. By this conceptual framework, we're trying to create the specific of each criteria and enabler. So this is our criteria of leading sector. We're trying to make some aspect. We define it to 5 aspects that there is that we see that this is very important. The first aspect is about the economy's major engine. So we think that, for example, having strong demand in both domestic and export market is very important to define something is a leading sector. Then increasing income, able to increase the income per capita, then creating employment, decreasing poverty rate, and sustainability. So these 5 aspects is very determine the leading sector. So this is the criteria. And then what is the enabler? So this is the list of the enabler. We define we have four dimensions for the enablers or circumstance or condition, the supporting condition to develop the leading sector. The first is economic dimension. So this is very important. For example, there is a market potential, availability of financial institutions, easy of access to credit, availability of broad access to market informations, and so on. So economic dimensions is the dimensions of economy to improve or to develop the leading sector. Then we also put into institution dimension in our research, such as conducive security situations, availability of socio-cultural support, society support. So society support is basically from just like a model social capital, just like social capital, the norm, how inclusive the community in Riau province, and so on. And we have also human resource dimensions, the availability of action, human resource, businessmen and laborers, availability of relevant, qualified educational institutions. Then the last one, we have regional infrastructure. So the dimension of infrastructure, I think, is really important when we develop leading sector. So this is some availability of infrastructure, road, port, terminal, and warehouse, and so on. And this is the this is the enabler of the leading sector. Then this, we also trying to list the supporting policies of the leading sector. We have some aspects, sectors, human resource development, governance, fiscal, capital, and environmental policies. So from each group of the policies, we try to look at a comprehensively perspective to give suggestions to the government. So by this list of policies, then we try to make a priority of the policies. So how the research process is going on. So this is our research process. The first, we develop a framework and methodology, like I trying to say before, and we use NP model, and then we hosted FGD with the local government officer we were trying to get intuitively the leading sector. So basically we got the list of leading sector is from the local government officer. Then we look at the secondary data and the primary data to make to create a confirmation from the data, and then we using an NP model to analyze all of the data. The secondary data that had been we collected from Statistics of Indonesia, ministries and business associations, and then primary data we got from in-depth interview and FGD, and the experts were from Bappenas, representative local government officer from all of Regencies and city in Riau province, national business associations, academics, and representative entrepreneurs from all regions and cities in Riau province. So the expert is not only from the government, it is also from the entrepreneurs, even national and local entrepreneurs. So this is very demanding research actually, but it's very interesting. And this is our framework of ANP. The main goal, our main goal in this research is sustainable regional economic growth. And like I said before, we have criteria and enabler that later it is very determined for the leading sector. So the first thing that we did is we make a rank for the criteria. The number of the criteria was 21. Then we make a rank of the enablers, and the number of enablers 24. These two things then determine the leading sector. And also based on the criteria and enabler, we we rank the supporting policies. So by this framework, we got the leading sector, then we got the policy, supporting policies. So this is our result. This is the rank of criteria of leading sector. So I think this is very important because the expert, let's take the top 5. For example, having the availability of raw material and sustainable development, then having comparative and competitive advantage. It can last for a long time, able to create high added value, inclusive, embracing of parties. So this is the top 5. The expert said this is very important, and this is the most important criteria to decide or to determine whether a sector called as a leading sector. So the first, having availability of raw material. So expert trying to say that the availability of raw material is the most important criteria for a leading sector. And I think having comparative and competitive, it can last for a long time. It is also related to the raw material. Then expert focus on downstream aspect. They put able to create high added value as one of the most important, then inclusive and embracing all parties. So this is fascinating because inclusive mean so basically inclusive mean when people want to enter a sector to be being a labor in an industry, it easy or not. The industry need high skill labor or not, or just unskilled, then they train it later. So it means that inclusive absorb very much labors, and so on. This is the top 5, and all of this rank is this determine the leading sector. Then how about the enabler? So this is the rank of the enabler, and something that really interesting is expert choose fair business competition as the top first one. So when the business is very prospective, when the sector is very prospective, having value added raw material, so much raw material, but the business climate atmosphere is not fair or unfair, so it can be difficult to a sector called as a leading sectors. And the second one, availability of communication network infrastructure, availability of road infrastructure, availability of excellent human resource, business and labors, and conducive security situations. So I think the top 5 of the enabler is very comprehensive because it is from infrastructure, it is from the climate of the business, it is from the social capital from the society or community in its regions and cities. And how about the rank of the supportive policy of leading sectors? By the INP model, we calculate, we conducting research using super decision, and the first rank of supporting policies, and experts said this is really important, is strengthening and developing infrastructure to support mobility of people, goods, and services. So experts said this is really important to support leading sector. And the second one is the development of leading communities oriented towards sustainable development. So it is about the vision of the local government, how they when they create when they develop sectors, that they have to put a sustainable development visions on that implementation. And the third one, improvement and of competence of the government apparatus in planning and budgeting. and the provisions of basic service facilities, and the fifth, strengthening synergy among local governments between local and national government in the development of non-extractive sector. So I think this is very interesting, the number 1 to 5, and this is the rank of the policies. And yeah, this is our final results of the sector for each cities and regencies in Riau province, but it is still in 8. Yeah, this is our results.
Yeah, you can continue for your conclusion.
Okay, thank you, Pak Agung. And this is our result, and most of them are based on the availability of raw material, then the supporting from the local society and the government. And our conclusion is this result. This study ranks potential and prospective sector in its regencies and cities in the province based on the criteria and enabler of the leading sector. We use ANP model because we not only to identify the existing sector, but we're trying to look the prospective and potential sector, even that doesn't merge over there. Then the finding of this study also clearly show that the local government must immediately implement several group of policies. And last but not least, this research provides a framework for how regions that are still dependent on extractive sectors need to diversify their economy based on selecting industries according to their local characteristics. That's it. Thank you, Pak Agung.
Okay, thank you very much, Pak Azhar. Interesting research. Have a question from the audience? You can directly ask to Pak Azhar. I think it's a very complex, very complexity research, Pak Thomas with data collection, and you also about the complexity of the data because you use of the primary and the secondary data, and you need to confirm with the experters, with the experter and with deep interview and focus group discussion, Okay, any question? Talking about the case study in the Riau province. Okay, we have a question in the chat box from Pak Thomas. Do your experts consider economic activities before and after the construction of toll road?
Yeah, thank you, Pak Thomas, for your question. Very interesting. The expert actually coming from the national expert and the local expert. The national expert represented by Bapenas, then a National Business Association, and the academics, and from the local expert coming from the academic from the University of Riau, then from the local government officer from all of the cities and regencies in the province. Unfortunately, we do not look at the toll road development in Riau as one of the basic reasons we choose the leading sector, but we put the regional infrastructure as a group of criteria and enabler to decide or determine the sector called to be called as a leading sector. Because when we see the toll road actually is I don't know, maybe we need a further research to answer this question, because the toll road in Riau province is very short, only from Pekanbaru to Dumai, and now the government still develop for the next toll road in from Padang to Pekanbaru. I don't know, but the progress is and all of these things is still in progress. And actually, when the toll road is emerged over there and create more good logistic for the industry, I think it is very. I think the expert will choose the infrastructure of the road infrastructure is one of the most important aspect to determine the leading sector. But when we see to my research, to my graph, like I said before, that some aspect like road availability is still one of the most important. So maybe a toll road is important, but it is not the most important for the leading sector.
Yeah, nice question, Pak Thomas. Yeah, I think you mentioned that the implication of the study, you given the framework, right? The framework. Yeah. Can you tell me more about that framework? It can be suitable in the other province or made the primary concern for our government to switch, yeah, or to shift the economy from the extractive to more sustainable. Because quite interesting when you show the graphic, yeah, the sustainable is a very higher than the increasing the GDP, yeah, GDP nation. Yeah, I think it's a very interesting result. What do you comment for that condition, Pak Azhar?
Yeah, thank you, Pak Agung. I think, yeah, like I said before, that this research can be a framework, a good framework for a local government to develop their economy. But this framework can be used, can be adapted to the other cities or regencies that depend on natural resources. Because, yeah, when we create this framework, we think that the criteria and the enabler can be, it is not for the specific regions. It can be used to another regions, or it can be used to another regencies or cities. So so that's why I say that this research is not only about the results of the list of the leading sector and the policies, but also it is about the framework. So another cities and regencies that when the government officer and when the local government realize that their region need to shift from the extractive sector, which is very fluctuate the growth of economy to be more sustainable. So maybe this framework can be used, can be adapted to their regions.
Okay, thank you very much, Pak Azhar. Okay, no questions because the time is around 2 minutes before we end for this session. No? Okay, I think it's enough for presentation, Pak Azhar. Thank you very much for presentation, Ibu Isnawati, Pak Thomas, and Pak Azhar for the wonderful presentation, for wonderful insights, inspiration for research, yeah, research about the projects. Okay, I think we move to the end of the session for today. Before we end of the session, please turn on your camera. We'll take a picture. Okay, please turn on your camera and give a smile. 1, 2, 3, smile. All right. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Mbak Fitrianur, for assisting this room. Thank you very much for all presenter and all audience to join this session. Thank you very much and see you in the next event. Stay safe, stay at home. Bye. Thank you.